Welcome, everyone, to the Ask Sean Show. I am Tristan Miller from Climate Reality here in Orange County, and I'm so happy to have all of you here tonight. I want to introduce Wayne, who is our co-host as well from Climate Reality, and Pete March from Citizens Climate Lobby. Hi, Pete. And Pete's going to be co-hosting tonight. And we have Tom Cabot, who is our resident expert. Thank you, Tom, for coming. And of course, Sean Armstrong, who's going to be answering your questions tonight. So let's get underway and we'll wait while others come in, but we'll go ahead and start, kind of talking about electrification. Here we go. So if you are looking to electrify your home or add projects or share your projects, you've come to the right place. Um, and your hosts, Tristan, Wayne, Pete, and Sean. And we're here to talk all about electrification. And electrification means going electric, replacing your appliances that use fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. And right now, there is over 109 million electrified appliances there out in America. And I've done those like where I've upgraded my heat pump, I've got an electric stove and dryer, but I've been doing one thing at a time. So you don't have to do it all at once. So we're here to help you make it easy. Pete, you want to take it away?
Sure, absolutely. Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for coming. This is one of my favorite things to do is to hang out with Sean and this group and spread good news about electrifying. Climate Reality Orange County has been hosting this for several years. Ventura County joined and Citizens Climate Lobby. Climate Reality OC has a YouTube channel with back episodes of the Ask Sean show. And even those are a great resource. Next slide.
And we're going to be sharing all of that with you, including this electrification guide in the follow-up email.
Yep, fantastic. One of the incredible resources that Sean and his company, Redwood Energy, have produced are these pocket guides to decarbonizing and electrifying. They address new construction, retrofits, multifamily, single family, commercial buildings, you name it. And Sean, as many of you probably know, is one of the leading, and really the leading designer of multifamily zero carbon homes across the country. And so, and tonight's show, if you haven't been to one of these previously, Sean loves getting what I call stump the chump. So see if you can stump him. Ask a complicated question about electrifying, and he has such a wealth of information in his head. He can usually, before you finish asking the question, he's got a web page up telling you, here's one of my favorite answers, and here's why I like it better than X, Y, or Z. But we'll get to that later on. Thank you, Tristan. One of our groups co-hosting frequently is the San Diego Building Electrification Coalition, a really cool informal coalition of nearly 40 nonprofits in the San Diego area. And Tom Cabot, do you want to talk a little bit about your electrical panel study?
Yeah. So what we found over the years of looking at homes and how they might electrify is that most people can fully electrify a large California house on a 100 amp panel. It's just a matter of picking the right devices and or using controls, and you can fit it on. So we look at different examples of how to do that. And we are part of a grant funded study now, trying to look at some examples. We're trying to find 25 examples of folks who've already upsized their panels to 200 amps. And we want to do an analysis to see what triggered that upsizing, what project were they doing that triggered that, and could we have found a way to keep them on their 100 amp panel. And so we've only have 5 parties who've gone through the process so far to get us all the right data. So we're looking for 20 more, particularly short on customers in Southern California. So that's why I wanted to come to your meeting today and talk about this opportunity. We'll be I believe Kelly Linden is also,
Okay.
yep, there
Yeah,
she
Kelly, are
is.
you
She's,
here? You want
yeah,
to say
so
a few words?
Sure. So I'm very excited to be in my day job working on this tool that Tom is talking about to help people stay on 100 amp panels, and and I met a bunch of you in person a couple of weeks ago, so that was fun too. But yeah, so I'm working with Tom and Sean and lots of others to develop this tool. And one of the things we're doing is analyzing folks who've already upgraded their panels and seeing what we can learn from that. So yeah, if anybody's interested in doing a research study, you have to, it's a pretty strict criteria about between 100 and 200 amps. Also, it has to be in IOU territory, which we found out was not Rob's case. He's LAW.
Long
DWP,
Beach.
yeah, or is it Long Beach? Whatever it is,
Yes.
it's one of the ones, one of the munis. So, but in any case, you happen to know anybody that's already replaced their panel with 200 amps? Would love a referral, or just send them the link. That would be way awesome.
Yeah, please put it in the chat.
So what is IOU?
Investor
Sorry.
and utility, like PG&E, SDG&E,
Gotcha.
and SoCal Edison. Those are the big ones.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if you click through the form, it asks you specifically.
But Rob,
And just to
there'll be another
clarify
time.
on that, Kelly, are you looking for IOU for the gas distribution utility or electric or both?
Both.
Okay,
Gotcha.
because in Long Beach we have municipal gas, but IOU electric. Darn. Okay.
Well, at this point, if you know someone that's in that category, we'll see if maybe we can squeeze them in. So.
Oh, I love it.
All right.
All right,
Fantastic.
now we've come to the exciting moment, Pete.
Yeah, very good. So with that, we're going to have Sean give us a little presentation. His presentations cover in the different episodes so many of the great things about the history of electrification, which is really eye-opening. I love it when he talks about the importance of beer in electrification and beer making, and then some great tidbits about Ronald Reagan and how he led the charge. So there's always a little twist to it. And after Sean tells us a little bit about the robust history of electricity as a service, then Rob Locke is going to give us a case study on his house. He and I are nearly neighbors, and our houses are both 100 to 110 years old. And it's my fault that he's here. And so we look forward to hearing about his journey in electrification. Take it away, Sean.
Thank you so much, Pete. Thanks, Tristan. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Tom. So first of all, the format, if you have any questions, please put them into the chat, and I'm going to try to answer questions as we go along. And I also have, as Pete said, I have some tabs and things open up to answer questions. Briefly, I'm a farm boy from Wisconsin. I used to be a high school science teacher and a farmer still to this day. I worked for about 6 years as an affordable housing developer, multifamily apartment complexes, but also some single family developments that were cool, and became a specialist in zero to energy housing, all electric, 100% solar powered, and been doing that as a consultant since 2011. My biggest, coolest project is under construction here. It's this one in the lower right-hand corner. It's got a 9-story tall solar wall facing the Washington, D.C. Beltway. And I was really actually hoping it was going to be finished by the time Trump left the first time. And now I'm pretty sure that it's actually going to be up while he's president this time. He gets to see a nice big solar wall on the Beltway. Makes me happy to get it out there. So, as mentioned, we've got guides. The one here on the left, the Pocket Guide to Home Electrification in the Bay Area, is kind of near and dear to my heart because it handles the trickier topics of rentals. And rental housing in California, you frequently have a gas stove in the kitchen. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But some of my staff actually have had problems like staying warm in their homes, dealing with their gas stoves. So on the top, this is a way to get rid of a gas stove. Put a cutting board specially sized over the gas stove and get a 1 or 2 burner induction range. And they also make them so they go forward and back with the 2 burners as opposed to side by side. And a countertop oven. Staying warm, like multiple of my staff really renting in homes that they can't keep themselves warm, or for that matter, their pets. A lot of them really are trying to keep their cat or their dog warm. So I've gotten pet warmers, so you don't have to heat the whole house. Happy pet then. Hand warmers, foot warmers, sock warmers. These are ways for people to, well, I mean, if your space heater does not work, or jackets, particularly, those are very nice, like battery powered jackets, way cheaper than paying $500 a month to not even get warm compared to like, electric blanket and electric vest and things like that. Now, that's the little guide. We're going to go into this. But as spoken, I like the history. I just think it's fun to understand how deep the history is, how temporary our situation is right now, how history is going to continue and has happened, So, heat pumps in the beginning were a typesetter who discovered that the ether that he was using to clean off the keys was boiling off his hand and making his hand cold, really cold. And he was able to capture that process of something evaporating and making things cold and turned it into an ice maker, which was used to deliver ice to all the breweries. And breweries were essentially the number one investor in heat pumps. The big heat pumps in our whole country were over in Brooklyn, New York, where the breweries were. Now, that strategy of just boiling off a liquid and having it absorb heat so you can chill something, that works for air conditioning your house. It also works for heating your house. You chill the outside air, bring the heat in. Now, more fun history. So on the left-hand side, this is the gas-lit Eiffel Tower. It opens up in 1889. It's got big gas flames and a gas, like spotlight up at the top. And then, about 7 years later, San Francisco opens up a one-quarter size version of it, all electric. Now, San Francisco had the nation's first, and well, the world's first public electric utility. It's called PG&E today. You might be familiar with it, one of the nation's largest utilities. It's also the first one to ever offer public electricity. So that was before it was called PG&E, by the way. So here you have this gorgeous statue in Golden Gate Park, built in 1894. So fun, had a spotlight that'd go 10 miles. You could read a newspaper from it. They would catch canoodlers up in the parks. That was a bunch of fun. And there was a hater. The superintendent of Golden Gate Park hated statues, and he dynamited this thing down just a couple years after it was built. It could have been awesome. There was an elevator, you go up to the restaurant. Okay, now put a pin in this. This is about the advent in rural America of off-grid microgrids, which was huge. They sold them as kits. And dependable Delco light, the complete electric plant, is mostly for light, because otherwise you're burning a gas flame. Candles or maybe gas jets, which weren't that warm, weren't that bright anyway. So there was 1 million homes, rural areas, because about half of Americans lived in rural areas, and only 1 in 10 homes had electricity in the rural areas in the 1920s and even the 1930s. Like I said, put a pin in that, this microgrid idea. Have a generator, store electricity in batteries, then the batteries provide electricity at night for your lights. It's the basics. The same time that people were deploying Delco electric light systems all over the nation, we got our first gas ban / all electric building code in Berkeley. In 1923, 50 city blocks of Berkeley burnt down, and it barely spared the downtown. Just a change in the winds saved us from not having any downtown Berkeley either. So after thousands of people left homeless, hundreds of people died, real tragedy, the city of Berkeley banned gas in new construction, and you can still find old manual transfer switches. I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but manual versions like, Frankenstein monster thing, ka-chunk, and that delivered electricity to a different part of the house or to a different appliance. Berkeley, of course, did it in the nation's first gas ban of the next century. That was triggered by the fires of California. My mother-in-law passed in the Tubbs fire in Santa Rosa, 2017. And many people, of course, know someone who's passed or has been affected by the fires in Los Angeles or in Paradise or pretty much every year. So I took that experience, which filled me with great grief, dragged the last gas appliance I had out of the house, the gas stove that she'd helped install. It's a nice old historic one that I liked. And then I invested money in hiring lawyers to figure out how to ban gas, which the city of Berkeley then did. This is me proposing in 2019 to a big crowd at their exposition that we should be banning gas. Paradise is just burnt down, people. We had another 80 cities follow. We had an appeals court ruling that said that Berkeley wasn't allowed to do that. San Francisco's kept their gas ban. They did it under different legal pretexts. So then a court over on the East Coast, a different appeals court's like, of course Berkeley could ban gas if they want. We're not their appeals court, but we're going to say it's fine in Boston and it's fine in New York. Go for it, people over on the East Coast. So right now, that's two different appeals courts, two different rulings on Kansas City ban gas. Regardless, the market has changed. You know, the movement really begins in 2019, you could argue, as a national movement when heat pump sales went off. And this is both nationally, where you can see heat pump sales in 2022, they creep above gas furnace sales and then they stay higher and they go even higher after that in 2024. This is also the same global phenomenon. It happened more like in 2020, but same global phenomenon. And right now, the United States is selling more heat pumps than any other country in the world, including China. We are heat pump central in the United States. Also, don't let the haters get you down, man. EV sales are still hot. You still see in the Bay Area, this is in 2023, the registrations, where we're seeing in a lot of the Bay Area 30, 40, 50%, even higher of all the cars being purchased and registered being electric. The rates have continued to go up in 2025. That's the left-hand graph as of April 30th, 2025. So we're doing just fine. Yes, things have slowed down. They have not stopped. We're still every year selling more EVs than the year before. We're still accelerating, and gas vehicles nationally and globally are flat. Electric vehicles are up and are staying up. Now, you might be familiar with essentially the Achilles heel of our modern electrification movement was stoves. The people's emotional attachment to the pans and the stoves that they have now. And so I've been working to try to explain to people what stoves really mean. I'm going to walk you through this for a moment because we just made a brand new one a couple weeks ago. This is not the brand new one. On the left-hand side, this is what I was working on in the late 20s, like 2018, 2019, etc. Showing how on the right-hand side, the 2017 U.S. outdoor air at 22 sites is between 30 and 60 parts per billion of nitrous oxide, which causes smog. On the left-hand side, you can see it's about the same amount of pollution of smog inside your house from just cooking on electric, right? That's just the fats and the oils burning. It's oil, you know, it's burning oil. You get smoke, nitrous oxides. But you can see how gas dishes go up to 190 parts per billion, a full meal up to 420 parts per billion. But it even starts cooking a full meal. You already have more NOx in your air in the kitchen than any outside spot in the country. You now have some of the filthiest air imaginable in your kitchen. On the right-hand side, you can see what is otherwise invisible, which is the smoke off a natural gas flame. It doesn't have enough particulates to look like smoke, but it has the same water vapor and NOx and formaldehyde and all the rest of the nasty brew of hundreds of chemicals that come off of burning gas in your home. So you can see sort of the orange and then the plumes of pink against the purple background. Okay, trying to make things visible. Here's a different version of that. Two different studies. The one on the left-hand side figured out how much NOx was coming off of gas stoves while you were cooking. The one in the study on the right-hand side is how much NOx is coming off of a car when it's just idling. Not like the cold start when it's extra dirty, but just like idling, you know, like people do at the bank, at the gas, like the stoplights, just idling. What does it take when a car is working well but idling? So your gas stove, when you're boiling water, that's 7,000 BTUs, that's just the smallest burner, not like a nice stove, which might be 10,000 or 12,000, 20,000 BTUs per hour per burner. Just a small one, the smallest one you've ever used. That's a 7,000 BTU per hour gas burner in some rental or something. That amount of pollution coming off of one gas burner is equal to 4.5 Ford Fusions. 4 cars idling in your kitchen is what one gas burner equals. So I encourage everyone to stop burning on gas. I was trying to show you at the beginning here, and I'll bring it right back to you. It's like, it's cheap. 50, 70 bucks, you get a cutting board, covers your stove, take off the burners, shut off the gas, right? And then just get your induction that cooks on top of it. Use the existing outlet that was for your stove. Now it can't even start. You take off the electric ignition, you have space for your stove. You can get that done in a couple $100s and save you some serious air pollution in your house. Now, last thing I want to show you was the microgrid of today. Now, PG&E, nation's first utility, is very slow. It is very hostile to adding solar to the grid. very reluctant to empower people to, use their cars as batteries for the grid, on and on and on. Not easy to work with. In fact, it's the number one problem in development. There are delays in responding to plan checks, like, what do you guys think? Can we do this or not, etc. So this is Dan Johnson, my former boss at Danco, just as intense. He's like, that's that guy. Now, I know that you can go off grid. Rich people already are doing this, right? This is the Silent 120 yacht. It comes with a submarine, electric submarine on one side. It pops out the side. It comes with electric 0 to 60 mile per hour jet skis that are silent, so you can go play with the dolphins, not make any noise, just quietly slapping on the waves. It's got a helipad. This goes about 100 miles a day on the open ocean just on solar panels and batteries. So for years, we've been demonstrating that you can just have solar and batteries without even a fossil fuel backup at the scale of a house. You have to have a lot of solar and batteries, but it's already been done. Being sold for $12 million for every 120-foot yacht. It's, $1 million for every 10 linear feet. So, and we also know that we can consume very little power. Like this question of do we need the grid to absorb, peaks of power, or can our battery handle it? Do we have what we need now with the infrastructure that's there, or do we have to add new infrastructure? Okay, so this is two houses, an old double-wide mobile home and the garage that got converted into a house. And we did it all on 100 amps of service, the standard old-fashioned service that every house got up until 2016, when California started requiring solar panels on new construction and also started requiring 200 amp services to allow up to about 8 kilowatts of solar per house. So on the left-hand side, this is what was in the garage conversion. It was countertop cooking, so induction range and countertop, 120-volt oven, a wall-mounted, like it's a packaged heat pump, just comes out of a box, mounted on the wall, plug it in, 120-volt heats the house, a water heater that goes into the closet inside. It's 120-volt, just plugs into any outlet, and then a 2-in-1 heat pump washer dryer also plugs into any outlet. None of these things need special 240-volt. None of them need dedicated circuits even. They're just any shared circuit works for them. On the right-hand side, another 120-volt heat pump water heater, this time from Rheem. The other one's A.O. Smith. Do-it-yourself heat pump where it comes with pre-charged refrigerant lines, which you always have to have a specialist come out for. But they come in just like a slinky of them, of these pre-charged refrigerant lines that you can clip on and just go for it. You can do a self-install. It took us a couple days with like 2 engineers, but we did do it ourselves. And it cost $5,000 to buy the equipment, but it didn't cost us $25,000. It cost us, an extra couple grand of time. Then there's the induction stove, and what's fun about that is that this induction stove has a 50 amp circuit, which is required for a 40 amp stove, which is almost all the stoves are 40 amp stoves. And our heat pump for the heating and cooling, the one to the left of that, that's a 30 amp HVAC system heat pump. So we share the circuit. The 50 amp stove circuit, which can't even get past 40 amps, but likely will never get past 20 amps when people are cooking ever. And the same thing with our HVAC system. It's got an inverter on it, so it's probably gonna be like 10 to 20 amps most of the time. Maybe it's possible that if we full blast the stove and full blast the heat pump, that one of them would have to shut off for a few minutes, and we would shut off the air conditioning or the heating system while you finished boiling 4 different things at once. There'd just be a few minutes. Not a big burden on you. So that's how we did 2 houses on 100 amps. So combine this, the idea that you can have a solar array and batteries support all your lifestyle, including fun transportation. The idea that you can do it with power efficient appliances. And I'm going to show you the project that comes out of that. This is all the solar that we could fit onto 131 apartments on a 5-acre site. It's about twice as much solar as we would usually put on a zero net energy project because we're trying to make sunshine into electricity in the wintertime when there's less than half as much sunshine. We couldn't fit any more really. Like maybe another 20% if we'd done everything completely gonzo crazy, but this is it. 1 megawatt of solar. 1 megawatt of solar, which is about 8 kilowatts per apartment, plus a 4.3 megawatt hour battery, which is equal to 2.5 Tesla Powerwalls per apartment. All right, so 8 kilowatts of solar and 2.5 Tesla Powerwalls is a very common system you'd see on a medium-sized house with affluent people that could afford both those things, right? For us, that gets us 94% off grid. So you can see where the blue goes down, that's when our battery bottoms out and empties. That's when we're going to be using grid electricity for this apartment complex. Or, and I'll show you just in a moment, but just for the moment, you think like, okay, they got like 94, 95% off grid just with on-site solar and a modest amount of batteries per apartment. Then we bring in the magic, which is 30 Chevy EVs, the EV Bolts, right? So GM is offering their Chevys to be grid support. They will let their car be used as a battery, as do most manufacturers now, Tesla and VW and Honda. Just go down the list. Everyone's allowing it. Nissan, Rivian. So Meocar is a nonprofit in the Central Valley that already owns a fleet of 65 cars that they offer to low-income households, like the people at this affordable housing development that I'm doing. And so we're going to hopefully get grants, bring in cars, and use their extra battery to then never use the grid. And we're going to be charging the cars with our extra solar during the summer and winter and fall. And really, most days, even in the wintertime, we'll have extra solar. We just need some of their electricity during the cloudy days. So this is how you can think of society. You can think of it as your own house. At any scale, you can think about, okay, solar and plus batteries, and then maybe just a little bit extra battery from my car gets the job done. So that's where we are today. Like this is pays for itself in less than 20 years. The California Energy Commission's sets a 30-year time frame for paybacks for code measures that they would require. So we've accomplished that. We've proven that this is appropriate for building code adoption, which is to pretty much only use the grid as a little bit of backup maybe every once in a while. And it's cheaper to do that is the point. Cheaper to go off grid at this point with the price of solar and the price of battery almost the entire year. So that's my little presentation. And I am going to be handing over to Rob, but I'm going to go to the chat.
Yeah, there's like a good question about cooking with gas and
Oh, is there good?
John
I do
Knox
love
right
that.
there. And
Let's
that's
see.
a great one to share because that's how I got interested in electrification. So I wanted
Can
to
you get
talk
John
about
Knox? Okay. What difference does it make if while cooking with a gas stove, you run the vent on full power and have a kitchen window open? Good question. So the capture efficiency of a hood is your first question. Like how good are they at capturing the smoke off a stove? They are usually about 30% to 40% efficient. So more than half of it does not go into the hood, and you end up having it throughout your house. Those like smog-like conditions. And as you know, when you run it on full blast, it's often very loud, like 5 to 8 zones, very uncomfortable to be by. So if you have your window open, it doesn't improve the capture efficiency, but it does increase the amount of air hopefully coming in and diluting and air leaving ideally. Um, so that's an improvement. But the right response is like, how quickly can I turn off that gas stove? Because it is terribly dangerous, even if you're only running one idling car in your kitchen worth, because you capture the rest of it. It's still so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Studies are showing that a lot of kids are getting asthma. They're directly linking it to the gas stove.
Yeah, about 1 in 8 kids in the United States got their asthma from a gas stove. And in California, it's 1 in 5 kids because we have disproportionately high asthma. We also have disproportionately high gas stove adoption. There's one question here that from Greg saying, hey, Sean, when are propane refrigerant heat pumps, when are they coming, I guess, to the US? UL went private in 2014 or something, seemed to have taken money from the chemical industry and banned in 2017 using propane in most types of heat pumps. So like a coalition of states have started to allow it, but it is still a big challenge to get propane refrigerant heat pumps in the United States. They're everywhere in Europe, but not so
And
much here.
One more question way at the top from
Oh,
Corey
yeah.
Downs, right after you said, hi, Corey.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
And talking about looking for kind of a window unit.
Oh, yeah, let me show you that.
Back.
So let me get to my, okay. So here on the internet, I'm giving you two options. One, the gradient, probably the best designed of these. It does a terrific job of atomizing condensate. So it's got like 3 different little ports where it turns condensate into mist. So you don't have to plumb or deal with a little container for your condensate. So this is this goes into a window usually that's an up and down type, a sash window. If your window is a slider, it might be worth it to you to get something like this that installs for say $2,500. You install it versus the same 10,000, 12,000 BTUs installing for $5,000 to $7,000 if you get it as a ductless mini split. So the self-installed packaged finish heat pump is a very cost-effective choice. So you can just see like even replacing your window could be a good idea to save money because the window replacement's $500, maybe a little more, maybe 1,000 if you're going to include lots of other unintended costs. The other option, if you had a slider, is this is a noisier, not as awesome heat pump, but it is the nicest one for this challenge, where it sits on the floor and then it's got this hose, hopefully within a hose, it's much more energy efficient. And this hose then is flexible and it goes up to your window. And you can have a sash, up and down window, or you can have a slider, back and forth. And it has the kit that goes into either of those so that you can sit it on the floor. You're gonna have to empty the condensate. It's gonna have to pull out. But the Medea 12,000 BTU duo inverter. An inverter means a computer to make it more efficient and quiet. That's what an inverter is in this context. And it's enabled with heat because they make these as just air conditioners, but you want the ones with heat if you're going to do both heating and cooling. And what's nice about this, I'm going to put this in the chat. This is the Medea. I just literally last week bought this for one of my staff. And then this is the Gradient, which is a Bay Area startup that's really doing cool stuff.
Yeah, and also for those of you who have kids at college, the Medea, I just got that for my daughter because they
Really?
were all burning up in their dorm room and they didn't have
Wow.
any AC. And so it was a solution from Sean and we got it. And it worked
I
great.
think these are great. One of my staff, she was nursing her baby in like an East LA house with no air conditioning and 10 people. I was like, whoa, you need an air conditioner, girl. And we got this one, and she could nurse the baby sleeping right next to it. It's quiet enough.
Yeah.
It's not quiet, but it's not noisy like many of them. This is the quiet one.
Yep. Sean, I just put in the chat a link to a saddle bag form factor $640 window heat pump.
Ooh, nice.
So
Is it quiet?
I forget what they say about quiet. But
Look
anyway,
at it.
check out that link. It's like for sale through Walmart, and it's just
There
really
we
neat
go.
for me when I see different firms getting on the bandwagon and producing these products.
This is interesting. It says mobile comfort. I'm not clear if it's Midea or not, but Midea makes it. Well, anyway, so this is cool.
Yeah.
Look at this. Experience ultra quiet operation with noise levels as low as 38 decibels. Hello, that's really quiet.
Very quiet.
And I
Very
can't
quiet.
remember if this is the one I found that was a 3-speed instead of inverter, so anyway, check out this thing to
Uh-huh.
see if it meets some of the use cases at a
Yeah.
much lower price than the Gradient.
Watch me
Superior.
bookmark this tab right now.
Yeah, we're gonna save that. And I got my daughter an LG one and I'm gonna put that in the chat too.
So I mean,
And-
this is real. If you look at the price here, 12,000 BTUs is also called 1 ton. It's the price installed is usually 5,000 and above, $5,000, $8,000 per ton
Yeah.
of heating and cooling in your house. This is $700 a ton. Not bad. Now, the question, does it work when it's freezing outside? Probably not. Whereas the Gradient does work in freezing weather. It's a cold
Mhm.
climate version, but I like it.
Yep.
Those
That
are all
looks like
good
a
options.
California coastal, could be
There you go.
the-
Yeah, Bay
the
Area
thing to do.
friendly.
You don't need a New York Gradient.
That's right.
Good point.
Oh, hey, Margaret, you wanted to know, did Berkeley ban gas 100 years ago because of climate change? No, it was because the gas had contributed to so much of the wildfire in Berkeley. The Bay Area, also in the 1906 fire, that was largely contributed to by gas plumbing in people's homes that broke. And so they've studied this over and over. At least half of all the fires that happen after an earthquake are just because someone's gas pipe broke, and then boom, you have a huge
Yeah.
fire because it's just so much fuel that's coming out. So they banned it because of gas lighting, primarily gas jets, which was one of the main reasons.
Right.
And what's
And
the
your fire department is too overstressed to handle those fires.
right?
So,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
And they're
so then you get
dangerous.
Yeah,
the fires.
and I used to live up in Lake Arrowhead, near Big Bear, and we would get 3 feet of snow, and then the people's gas pipes would, people were gone, and blow up their house in snow because nobody
Yeah.
couldn't get to them and couldn't shut off the gas. It was crazy.
There's like it's dangerous stuff. It's half. I mean, I think you were asking this question of like what influences people more, climate change or explosions? I find explosions,
Gets
the
your attention.
yeah, pets also, like you're killing your pets with the gas stove. The formaldehyde that comes off is heavier than air. It's like poisoning your pets and your babies. Most people don't have babies, right? That's 1 year of your life. Everyone has a pet that's little and tiny that sits on the floor. So like focusing on pets being poisoned seems to get people.
Yeah.
Marilyn Palomino, that quote for 25 grand is a lot. You might be able to get that for a 2,000 square foot house to be more like 20 grand, but it's not catastrophic like a 30 or $35,000 bid. But it shows you why if she just got nice heat pumps for her windows, probably 3 or 4 of them would be the whole house done. And that might be $12,000, not $25,000 if she's willing to use a high quality window heat pump.
Yeah. And Marilyn, we're happy to meet with you one-on-one if you want and look at your project too. So, and there's one last question. Maybe Sean, you just want to answer it in the chat so we can get to our case
Yeah.
study. But it's from Virgil, way at the top, talking about having an old house central air unit and
Right.
to replace that
So,
one. But
well, let me show you what that looks like just briefly. When I was showing you
yeah,
the 2 homes that we electrified,
yeah,
that was here. Okay, so your old house, um, like this, 1973 double wide, right? Leaky and all the rest of it. So we figured that this house was like a 2 ton heating demand, but maybe it was 3 tons. We didn't know. So we got a 2/3 ton heat pump, like this Mr. Cool here. Has a dip switch in it that allows you to make it a 3 ton heat pump and a little bit less efficient, or a 2 ton heat pump and more efficient. So you can find out in the wintertime if you sized your heat pump right or not. Um, there's other ways to do that, but this is like a simple fail-safe way. This Mr. Cool, this is what a heat pump looks like for someone's house for ductwork. And the box that's inside that sits where the furnace is now is usually the same size, roughly. And you can get it from the same manufacturer, and then it usually is the exact same size, right? If it's from the same manufacturer. And then you have a condenser compressor device on the outside called a heat pump. And that's the box with a fan in it. The heat pump outside is essentially, for everyone else's knowledge, is essentially just a big old fan inside of a box. That's most of what a heat pump is. And then there's a little bit of magic of the boiling liquid, the refrigerant, quote unquote. But it's mostly a fan is what you're actually looking at. So that's what you would use for an old house is you try to get a 3 ton heat pump. A 3 ton is because your ductwork isn't designed to handle 4 tons. And you have to replace all your ductwork if you go more than 3 tons. And your house is probably all it needs is 3 tons if you just do some like caulking around the door, the seals of the floor. Like you just do some basic air sealing, you probably have a 3 ton house. And air sealing costs almost nothing. You know, caulk is a few bucks a tube. Um, so that would be my recommendation is you get a ducted heat pump or like those window ones, like I was mentioning, those are also a good idea. It'll save you a bunch of money if you do the window version. Okay, I'll pause there because Rob's got some good stuff for you.
I can actually talk to some of these points. Uh-oh, where's my window? There it is. Yes.
There you go. And
There I am. Good.
there you
Preparation
are.
helped. I'll shed some light on some of those questions because I've done both types of 2,000 square foot house
Can
Hmm.
you share your full screen?
one
Can you
with
share-
traditional and one with heat pump ductless. So there were a lot of trades there. I'll make a couple comments. So last year I bought a house here in Long Beach that was built in 1913. It has no insulation, terrible drafts from ancient windows, and had two wall heaters and a window air conditioner where it's only thermal control. Absolutely awful. However, prior owners had done a 200 amp conversion so they could put a car charger on and a few other things like that. So that's what I had to start to work with. And what did we want to do? We wanted to get our air quality. My wife has asthma. I had childhood asthma. And we wanted to increase our indoor air quality. We want to reduce our environmental impact. And we wanted better, newer, more efficient appliances. And then someday in the next year or two, we want to put solar on. So electrification was the right answer, even though we didn't already have solar. So there's the HVAC story on the left. It was just hideous. Was never going to heat the house, never going to cool the house. Just a terrible idea. So in this case, we have two main rooms and three bedrooms, and so I wanted 5 zones so everybody could be either comfortable to their desire or leave it off. Our old house had ductwork and a central air system, and in order to keep the den nice, we had to keep the whole house nice, and that was a very expensive proposition. And then a couple of years ago, we replaced the system, and it was about $22,000 because we did the ducts at the same time. Very expensive. I spent that much on a brand new, never air conditioned house. I put our heat pump system in. So every bedroom and every main room is cooled. However, we don't use it that much. On the coldest days and the hottest days, 2 or 3 out of 5 will be running, but only for the hours we need it. So it is relatively low cost. I say relatively because it's so drafty. To heat and cool this house it's hard to keep it hot or cold because we don't have good draft control and we didn't have good insulation. I've since insulated the attic. So I'm super happy I bought this system, even though I don't need 4 tons of cooling. I only need about 2.5 tons of cooling, but I just wanted to have all of the zones. So I was willing to pay more. In the chat, I note that the 25 grand that I spent on this, you could do every room with the Medias and do a fine job for about 10% of that and not have to upgrade power and all that fun stuff. So I didn't know that trade last year when it was time to think about this. I might have thought differently when I could save 90% of the money. Water heating. We had an ancient gas water heater that was on its last legs anyway, and I did not want to have to put up with wintertime no hot water. So we said, well, it ain't broke, let's fix it. So got a Black Friday deal, got the rebate, ended up paying about $700 for that water heater, and the ones at the same store right next to it that were gas were over $1,000. So we replaced it. I had to run a 240 volt circuit to it because we wanted the surge for the wintertime. Otherwise, I was going to buy the 120 volt Ream equivalent to this, which I'll say the big deal with the two that's different besides 240 volts, the 120 volt has a mixer. So you can store your water at 140 degrees and then mix it down. So you can have a lot more hot water by using a process like that. They're super well insulated, so it doesn't hurt to run the temperature higher. For cooking, so we had this fancy French stove that the prior owners had put in. It's, oh boy, is it really neat looking. And they cost about 10 grand. So those guys spent a lot of money. And I just didn't like it. I'm used to having like a Samsung gas stove, and this thing was just a pain in the neck to use. And so I just didn't care for it. So August last year, I came to the Sean show and we were talking induction. So I said, let's go do that. And so Pete and I talked, and I looked at the one at his house, and So we chose to get rid of the fancy French stove and get an LG induction range, which we just love. We're still learning how to not burn food or it just works differently. And I've gotten quite expert, but it's taken me 6 months to cook certain types of things like woks. Woks are hard for me on this thing. Uh, but other than that, it boils water like a dream, 3 or 4 times faster than I used to be able to do, even with the very high BTU burner on the French stove. Anyway, we sold that guy for 3,500 bucks. It bought the stove, it bought the water heater, and it bought our electric dryer when we got around to replacing that. And that was just fun. All the research, all the talking back and forth, asking Pete every question under the sun, was a whole lot of fun. So coming down to it, here's what I wanted to do. Here's the stuff we did. Here's the results. Because it has a class 2 charger, I needed to replace my car anyway and was doing all sorts of EV, plug-in hybrid. I still want road trip gas-powered car. So I got a plug-in hybrid on purpose. Is what I wanted even before we moved here. And so I charge it up at night and I drive it around as an EV all day. And only if I have to drive 100 miles or more in a day do I ever use gasoline. I'll go 2 months without filling up the tank. So my gas costs went down even when my electric costs went up. So you can see the different times in the calendar year since last July when I've added all of these things. And so our power use went up roughly 50% in this shoulder type of year. Actually, that's not a shoulder. We're actually using air in July and August, but it's just not that much more to have all these electric appliances, and the gasoline usage offsets everything and then some. And our next project is rooftop solar. And, you've already heard from Sean on, batteries making you 100% off grid, solar only versus just installing enough to average power your house and use Edison for the rest. And so everybody has to balance their how much budget do I have to invest. And so that's our next game to play. But at some point, I'll be able to go net zero. I will generate more electricity than I use, and I will, if not all, but mostly replace my fossil fuel usage. And I think there's a balance. I'll generate more electricity than the fossil fuel I use. So that's the net zero promise, even though I still will use some fossil fuel. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm happy to have questions, and I know Sean will have comments to talk about some of these things.
Woo!
Yeah.
Woo! Good job. Way to go,
I
Rob.
promise 10 minutes or less.
Yeah.
We did it. We did it. So, the cost difference, there's a couple of questions that people are asking, like, essentially here, I think Lisa Oliver, she'd heard of 2 households, new
Yeah.
construction, all electric, where energy bills were $400, $700, which may or may not be higher than what they would have been with gas bills. What was your experience since you didn't change, your technology's changed?
Right. So in my old house, that was summertime, we would spend that much on electric. Wintertime, gas use on a central air is a very low cost, even when you're pumping it a lot. In terms of money, because gas in Southern California per BTU is much cheaper than electricity. In the new house, putting in the heat pump, it didn't have anything. The gas heaters in the house were so worthless, it wasn't worth turning them on. They didn't change the temperature in the house. And so I just jumped from Stone Age to 21st century in one step. And so I can't really compare other than last winter using heat, we got up to $400 a month. And then I insulated some windows and sealed some doors and we started using the thermostat more effectively and it dropped right back down again. So when I do get to fix the windows in a permanent way, I expect my costs to stay in the $100 to $200 a month, and then when it goes solar, it'll go away entirely.
Yeah, I would add that there's been it depends upon somewhat of your own habits. If you save money, lose money, or break even.
Hmm.
California is one of the states where it's sort of like a toss up until you add solar and then that benefits you. Until you add a battery and that can significantly benefit you. But if you're just consuming one versus the other, that's where we're at right now is similar bills.
Yeah.
Not all the same. Like in Nevada, just one state over, their electricity prices are one third what we pay here. And actually, you can see that in all the city-based utilities in California, Sacramento, LADWP,
Oh,
Palo
yeah.
Alto, Redding, Ukiah, small town, big town. It's all
Oh, I
are
was in Glendale, the other end of LA County, and I was paying an average of 25 cents a kilowatt hour. And here on Edison and Long Beach, it's more like 45 cents a kilowatt hour on average.
yeah. And they can get you with time of use rates that sometimes those smaller utilities in the cities aren't even bothering with, like trying to figure out how to charge you 70 cents a kilowatt hour for a few hours.
Right.
The bastard. So, we have a particularly bad situation in California with the third most expensive gas in the country, and in San Diego, the number one most expensive electricity in the nation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, and the rate increases which are driving inflation in California. Another thing is that our governor has taken more money from the utilities and their unions than any governor prior by twofold. Like he's really raking in the union monies and the
Oh,
PG&E monies, while at the same time, the Public Utilities Commission has been allowing rates to go up through the roof. Yeah, so we have a problem. It is not a national problem. There are other places where electricity and gas rates aren't easy to work with. Wisconsin, where I'm from, is a bad state. But Nevada's awesome, Arizona's awesome, Oregon's fantastic, Washington State's amazing. There's about 20% of American states where it's as
Yeah.
bad as
And
it is in
like
California.
the Carolinas don't have time of use or any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it
But
can be
it can cost you a little more, save you a little bit of money. That's California for you.
hmm
so what's driving that? I mean, greed only goes so far, but I had the impression from things I've read over the years that in part it's supply, that they're not building the right kind of power for us to be able to take advantage of it cheaply. Is that bunk?
Well, the CPUC has not audited the utilities in almost 10 years,
Oh, great. Okay.
right? So like just amazing. They accept anything that the utilities put in front of them and rubber stamp it as a rate increase. So, 6 rate increases from PG&E last year. Pete, looks like you want to add some pile on here. Go for it.
Yeah, I'll just jump in there. I spend a lot of time on this, near and dear to my heart. There's a bunch of different factors. One important thing is in California over the last 20 years, even while electricity usage remained flat until the last 2 or 3 years, rates increased around 400%, well above the cost of inflation. Most of that was despite what the opponents of renewable energy say. They just, oversimplify, blame it on renewable electricity. And 20 years ago, when wind and solar were very expensive, yeah, they were helping to drive up overall rates. But they are now, and have been for 9 years, since 2016, wind and solar are the cheapest forms of electricity generation in California and in most of the United States and most of the world. So it's still in vogue for Republicans to blame wind and solar, even though it's wrong. We do have to beef up the grid. We've had decades of deferred maintenance. Just ask the folks in the city of San Bruno or the town of Paradise, which were blown up by PG&E and burned down by PG&E respectively, right? Grid maintenance would have helped those. But for 100 years, the investor-owned utilities have their shareholders earn profit not for operating a safe grid or a reliable grid or an efficient grid. They earn profit when the utility company builds things. That's it, period. And so the utility companies want to build all of the generation and distribution themselves and prevent us pesky customers from building any, because that drives down their shareholders' profits. So a misplaced profit incentive is a huge piece of it. Very clumsy language, much harder to understand than, oh, it's all wind and solar's fault. But that's the real deal. So pay attention when bills to fix that come around in the legislature next year.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough.
No, and
Off
that's
my
why it's great to
soapbox.
get involved in a local group so that you know when these things are happening. That's because your voice will matter. You have to let your senator and your assembly members know that you have a right as a ratepayer to affordable clean energy. Wayne, did you want to say something?
Yeah, one of the major expenses for us in California is wildfire insurance and wildfire settlements. If you look at any of the IOU's annual reports, you can see that it's about a third for wildfire mitigation, the cost, their operating expenses. Also, they have some of the IOUs are lucky enough to have charges for nuclear decommissioning. So those are just some of the other factors we're faced with in California here.
Thanks, Wayne. Sean?
Well, I want to make sure we get to any other questions here.
Yes.
So I was just seeing people are rushing in with stuff here. So yeah, William, you were saying you thought you had it bad in Michigan, 19 cents. Ah, we all wish for 19 cents. You lucky guy. Yeah, I'm sure it's terrible for you. So Betsy Longendorfer, you said your son is doing a do-it-yourself home battery system using Anchor Solix battery management system and utilizing the electric panel connection that his portable gas generator used to plug into. Yeah, that's a good one. The automatic transfer switch, the thing that you plug into, you can put a battery into that same automatic transfer switch. Have you heard of others doing this before? Is there a standard design? Well, that presentation I didn't put that slide in here. Yes, it is a standard strategy. PG&E offers it now where they'll give you like a meter collar, a little piece of metal that goes behind your meter, and you can plug your Ford into it, or you can plug your generator into it, or you can plug your battery into it. So yeah, that strategy of using, because the generator, there's nothing magic about making electricity with gas versus making electricity with chemical energy, stored battery energy. It's still electricity when it hits that meter. So I think that what your son is doing is cool and like kind of normal. Anyone else want to say that's okay?
Yeah.
Sounds cool. Betsy,
I
hook
wanted
us
to do
up.
that myself, but didn't know how. Yeah.
Yeah, Betsy, have him come on the show. We'd love to share it, or if he has some questions, please put him in touch with us.
John Knox.
He's just putting it together now, so we'll see.
Send some pictures, man. That's cool. John Knox, you said if you add battery storage to your existing solar system, can you draw from the battery for all your nighttime energy needs? Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Depends on the size of your battery and your demands, but yes, you certainly can, and people do all the time. Let's see. Corey Downs. You said you're gonna have to come back and present when our portable solar panel and battery library lending program is started. We're lending them to staff. Is this your like solar arrays that you're putting out on balconies and such?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, although not as many balconies in Chula Vista, but we're going to be lending out the smaller 1/4 kilowatt hour batteries and some like 110, 160 watt panels through the library. And so they're just working their way through the library indexing system, which our library staff are great, and they're responding to a challenge of how do I treat this in our system? Lots of kind of not things they haven't done before. So I think it's going to have some really good lessons. Hopefully, it's a pilot. We're still learning, but I can say that We've also started using some of the bigger, like up to 4 kWh batteries for our staff, and it's basically like a really great generator replacement. So like inflatables, it's not something I really thought that there was a lot of use of, but now I can't see, and now I see them everywhere.
Yeah.
Like generators running inflatable equipment.
Right.
And to be fair, I think this is a great example where we want to say like, no, we want to have fun. We're not saying don't do it. We're saying do it cleanly.
Yeah.
I learned as part of this, I learned our recreation has like an inflatable archery, and it's a ton of fun. So like there's now every time I see inflatable equipment, I realize like, ooh, that could be a good opportunity for batteries. So
Absolutely. Like,
and
who wants to have, like, when you have all your little kids, like I used to run the bouncy house at the event like once a year, they just stand in front of it, and then
Yep.
generator going and back and getting gassed from it while
Yeah.
your kids in there, and it's like
Noisy.
there's nothing that's
and then the
yeah.
other big user is our fire teams who get deployed beyond the grid. And, they are like, will traditionally kind of struggle to keep all of their equipment charged. And they say they use a 1 kWh size battery. They don't use solar panels because it's a little
Smoky.
bit, they're doing other things.
Yeah, right.
But they say they bring it out fully charged. It lasts for 3 days worth of use. And it still has a charge when it comes back. So, I think that's another really great use case where like these batteries are used, yes, for like buildings and whatnot, but all the other uses that we use electricity for now. So I'll
I was just
definitely
looking
come
up
back. Yeah,
that,
when we
like,
have more
that
to
1
report.
kWh battery that lasts for days for their needs for charging everything, that weighs about 20 pounds. Not that much. Obviously like a real solution for problems they have, emergency responders beyond the grid.
Yeah, yeah. I will say the 4 kWh is that does weigh significant weight, but it has wheels, and our recreation crew who uses it, like they already move big equipment, and their truck has a ramp. So, like with most ADA access, like they don't lift it. They never have to lift it. They just wheel it around. So there definitely is
Right.
solutions.
Right.
I will say the next thing we're looking to do is actually purchase extra batteries for the 4 kWh batteries to double the capacity to 8 kWh.
Uh-huh.
I think one of the things that we've learned in using batteries away from the grid is you never really want to go to zero. Like in my head, I was like, great, you can get from 100% to zero and you can do all the activities that you want to do. But like, they don't want to be at 0% when they still, or like, 10% when they still have stuff to do. You want to kind of end the event with like 50% charge and still have ability to do lots of stuff. So we're definitely kind of upping the capacity. But that said, they're pretty modular. We're just getting extra batteries. So I'll let you know how those go when we get them.
And put out there that we're as a research project, we're installing these 5 kWh batteries on wheels as portable batteries for people's homes. And that's actually a fair amount of electricity. 5 kWh can have your all electric house go for a day if you're being frugal, and certainly have most of your things going for days. Like, yeah, like it's neat to see that they're portable and cheap and getting pretty easy to wire, and good stuff. Now we are just at the conclusion. Is there any other questions that someone wants to come off audio and ask that we missed?
Or a story to share? I know
Or story to share?
Kathy had one about doing something similar at an EcoFest. I don't know if you're there. Anyone else? Hey, I think Kathy's unmuting. We can't hear you yet, Kathy.
Well, I put it in there and I tagged Kathy, so she may have stepped away. But yeah, there was Encinitas is a town here in the San Diego County area that had a outdoor EcoFest, and she helped set them up so they didn't have to use generators at this community festival. So they used batteries for the stage where they had a microphone and speakers and music. And then they brought in somebody's F-150 truck to run the food trucks.
Love
And
it.
power the food trucks. So there was no generators, none of that noise at this community EcoFest. It was amazing.
Or the noxious diesel fumes.
Exactly.
I know you've been to those when that happened.
This is kind of funny. It's a generational thing. When I was a college student in the 1990s, we would power stages with pedal power. We'd get like 8 bicycles in a row. We'd hooked up the generators. Then we'd usually have like super expensive solar panels, 300 watts. Ah, so expensive for 300 watts. and run it through an expensive inverter. And just seeing how we've gone from, the humans were essentially most of the power going into the stage. And then we had other things that were expensive and supplemental. I think it'd be reversed now. It'd be so much easier to show up with someone's truck and just plug it in as opposed to having to build 8 bicycle generators, which was not easy, and haul them around, on their own trailer and things. I just like how it's changed, 30 years later. It's very concretely a different technology set that's like cheaper, easier to set up, runs longer, all the stuff. I love it.
Love it, love it, love it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go feed my kids then.
Let's
love
do it. And
y'all.
be sure to fill out the study for Kelly and Tom's study. I know that there are people out there who've gone from 100 amps to 200 amps. So please
Yeah, help us
talk
out.
about it.
Yep.
Help us
Yeah, we
out.
want to learn your stories.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm on
you.
that team too, so you're helping me out also, just so you know.
Let's
Okay. I'll have a great
We're
day.
all helping each
Evening.
other. That's what it's all about. Thank you guys for being here
Thank you.
tonight.
Thank you, Rob.
And Wayne's going to send you an email with all the presentation, the links, and most of all, thank you, Rob, for a great presentation.
Yes.
You're
Woohoo.
welcome. It was fun.
It was really, really good. And we hope you're going to come back when you start more of your projects.
Oh, absolutely. I'll talk about it, but I want to come back just to learn what other people are doing. So
Yeah, keep
be
coming
fun.
back. And we'll keep you posted on the next show. Thanks, you guys. Have a good night.